All right, let's get into this. Round 1 of Bochum regionals. Got Nico with the Mew with the Poncho. The Poncho is prized. And then we've got Pedro. And actually the Poncho could be kind of important in this matchup. Because you could like have only one Mew VMAX in play that Pedro could go after with the Drapion, and then just kind of never put it in the active, and then Pedro can't boss it. So you can have access to it later. Like Psychic Leap down to 1 Mew VMAX or whatever. And Pedro playing Lost Box, 2 Psychics prized, and I believe Pedro is playing pretty much the exact same list that they played at OCIC. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up Pedro's list real fast. I'm curious how many. I think Pedro only played 2 Psychic. So Sableye is pretty important in this matchup because that can be how you get your first 2 prize cards is like Sableye plus Greninja. You go Greninja, 2 Genesects, Sableye takes 2 knockouts, and then you go Drapion, Sky Sealstone, and then you draw 4 prize cards that way. So that's all 6 of your prize cards. So both Psychics prize for Pedro, which means Pedro might have to do it the other way around. Pedro might have to go Greninja, Drapion for 4, and then Sableye after you get a Psychic off the prize cards, which does open it up so that Nico can Roxanne you. So with the way the prize cards are, it could be a little bit awkward for Pedro. And we'll see who's going first. And both players want to go first in this one. And it looks like Nico did. I actually really like, the thing I noticed, I was actually going to talk about this, I really like the mat, whatever this is. I don't know what this is. It's a little bit awkward. I would like to be able to see both players' decks. It does feel a little, the camera feels crooked. The camera feels off. But I like this. I don't know, what is this mat that they're playing on. I do like the mat that they're playing on, to be honest. So pretty good start here from Nico. And Nico's game plan is just going to be try and never have a VMAX in your active. If you can. The one awkward thing about that is Pedro does play the Raikou. So if you like set up a Mew V or something, then Pedro's going to KO your Mew V with Raikou, and then you have to respond to the Raikou with a Mew VMAX, and then Pedro's just going to go Drapion, Sky Sealstone. So, I do kind of like the table they got going on here, whatever this is. So that's going to be like, Nico's, you probably just want to use Mew VMAXs in the early game, and you probably want to combo Mew VMAX. Whenever you can go like Judge, you definitely want to leave a Mew VMAX in the active. Oh, Nico's actually playing the Meloetta build. Okay, that actually changes things up for Nico, because that allows Nico to be like aggressive with the one prize Pokemon. I don't know the timings of when Nico wants to attack with Meloettas in this matchup, to be honest, but I'm sure there is certain times. Oh, not a very aggressive start here from Nico at all either. Just VIP pass, quick ball. And it's possible Pedro actually gets a turn 1 hit with a cram into a Genesect, which is that's actually like a super big, so it's a lot of damage to have in play for Pedro to take advantage of later on to get those first 2 prize cards or last 2 prize cards. Opens up with the Primate Wisdom. I'm pretty sure Pedro did have a Battle VIP pass in hand, so Pedro just trying to potentially draw a basic Pokemon before. Pedro potentially trying to draw a basic Pokemon before using the Battle VIP pass with the Guru, so that way you just get more basic Pokemon set up, because if you use the Battle VIP pass first, then you take 2 Pokemon out of your deck, which means when you use the Primate Wisdom, you're less likely to see a basic Pokemon, so just trying to maximize basic Pokemon here. Nico's first tournament ever, though. He was shaking like crazy, super nervous. Okay. Yeah, Pedro definitely probably has the experience advantage for sure in this one then. You'll appreciate the 7-month resub there, Manny, and the 24 months, Rashawn. Double Battle VIP pass from Pedro. All right, so really good start. Like I said, wants to get a cram hit here. It was a really slow start from Nico though. So these are like the kind of situations where like you could debate going with an early Drapion as Pedro, but it's like a little bit risky, because then if Nico just has the Lost City plus return knockout, then you kind of like start to crumble from there. So like if you can get away with it, if you think your opponent doesn't play Lost City or you know they don't, then actually going for a Drapion hit here, I don't hate from Pedro, but it's hard to make that call. Like almost every Mew player plays Lost City, so comfy use, Cram versus Sableye. You kind of have to keep the Sableye here. I'm pretty sure it's Cram versus Sableye there. It could be Manaphy. No, it's Cram versus Sableye. Got to keep the Sableye here. Like I said, you got to find those 2 prize cards. Sableye is a great way to find them. There's an escape rope. Mew send up. So this is unfortunate for Pedro. You really don't want to escape rope here. You want to hit the Genesect here, but you don't really have a choice if that's your only way to get from Comfy to Comfy. Finds the Colress now finally. So it's going to get to the 4 in the Lost Zone. Is going to hit the Mew for 110. Maybe Pedro could find another escape rope here, but I'm pretty sure Pedro went down to 3 escape ropes. So there's no more escape ropes from Pedro this turn. So this will mean that Pedro will be hitting the Mew, if anything, with the Cram this turn. Loses the Snorlax. The Snorlax can be a pretty big attacker in the game as well, because it does kind of force your opponent to play the game. Like, one thing that can happen is Nico could theoretically get to a situation where they can just sit here and Psychic Leap over and over again. But if you punch them with a Snorlax, they can't really Psychic Leap as efficiently. They can Psychic Leap into the Snorlax, but then you have the Snorlax still set up. And then if, like, Pedro ever finds, like, Boss, you could, like, Boss a Genesect, hit it with the Snorlax, something like that. So Snorlax or, like, the Zamazenta can sometimes kind of break the Psychic Leap loop that your opponent's kind of going for. Zamazenta not as much, I guess, because if they Psychic Leap into your Zamazenta, you're only doing 100 damage. But it does mean they're not drawing prize cards and gives you time to kind of, like, get through your deck. There's a switch cart, Mirage Gate, and water. You can usually give up a couple Mirage Gates in this matchup as well. You need like one, maybe two. You don't need a ton of Mirage Gates. And we'll see if... All right, there's the attach to the Greninja. So I think Pedro's going to choose to not punch with Cram here. Yeah, and there's the pass, which I think is fine. I don't know. The damage on the Mew can still be useful. So if you pressure this Mew, it makes it... It kind of forces them to want to Psychic Leap a little bit more aggressively. And Pedro does play Zamazenta, so the Zamazenta could make appearance at some point, and then the Zamazenta would be able to get a 2-hit KO on the Mew VMAX. So the damage wouldn't be wasted if the Cram punched the Mew here. It is like a little bit more likely just to end up being wasted, though, because like it would get Psychic Leaped, but it's not 100% wasted for sure. So yeah, if Pedro could have hit a Genesect, that would have been great. Not being able to hit a Genesect there, like hitting the Mew, it definitely is less value. So I think Pedro could have retreated there, chose not to retreat, or maybe I missed it and Pedro already did retreat. I think Pedro probably could have pulled off an attack with Cram here, but it's not a super high value hit. Not if they bench Oricorio, right? I mean, you could like KO the Oricorio with Sableye at some point, because like you theoretically could go like, if they bench the Oricorio, KO Oricorio, KO Meloetta, KO the Mew. I guess you have one prize card left at that point, which doesn't feel great. But you could go KO Oricorio, KO Meloetta, and then Drapion, KO the Mew. If you force the Oricorio out of your opponent by hitting them with Cram, and then that forces the Oricorio out, so that way Zamazenta doesn't kill your Mew or KO your Mew, then you can go KO Oricorio, KO Meloetta, and then KO 1 Mew VMAX with Drapion to win the game. It's also like, I mean, yeah, because they play Meloetta Mew though, I don't hate saving the Cram because they are playing the Meloetta build, which means having your answer of Cram into Meloetta is just super efficient. And Pedro did Lost Zone their other Cram at the beginning of the turn, so. All right, Sparkle from Nico. Pedro making sure that Nico picks the targets first. And yeah, it's going to go to the Mew and the Genesect? I thought they even picked Meloetta. Am I trolling? Wait, did they pick Genesect? Interesting. Hold up. Let's go back and see what they said. They did pick Genesect. Interesting. So interesting choice to put it on the Genesect there. Now Meloetta is like not a super great attacker into the matchup in terms of efficiency, because you attack with Meloetta and then Pedro could attack with Greninja, Cram, Sableye. There's so many things that knock out the Meloetta, but it does leave a one prize Pokemon in your active as opposed to a multi-prize Pokemon that Drapion can just kind of one-hit KO. So I don't think it makes a ton of sense for Nico to not put that energy on the Meloetta. Because you want to have that option to have to be able to get a knockout for turn, but have a non-multi-prize Pokemon in your active. So I think definitely a mistake here from Nico. Here comes a Quick Ball. They had Judge in the hand alongside the Forest Seal Stone, though, so I don't really like this play from Nico. I think Nico probably could have just gone attach Forest Seal Stone to Genesect, draw 2, play the Quick Ball, play the Judge, continue to draw from there and build up for future plays. So Quick Ball away the Judge here, I believe. But basically, Judge is like what you want to be doing in this matchup is judging every single turn if you're not using Boss. If you don't think Boss is better. I think... did they actually Quick Ball away the Forest Seal Stone here? It might be the Judge in the hand. I didn't see what they actually Quick Ball. I just assumed it was the Judge. But they didn't attach the Forest Seal Stone before drawing, so... Choice Bell to the active. We don't know what other tool... We see they have the Poncho. We don't know if they have Parasol or... I forget what the other one is. Parasol or Hero's Medal, which is something that sometimes Mew players play. Comes another draw with Genesect. Yeah, Nico definitely nervous. You can see him shaking in the camera. Well, you guys can't see it, but I can see it. Has the Melodious Echo knockout here, so should definitely take the knockout with Melodious Echo. There it is. Did not play the Judge, though. You definitely want to play the Judge here as Nico. You basically want to judge every single turn. Every time you think your opponent built up some kind of hand, you want to take the hand away. So Pedro here, probably going to look for the... I would imagine would look for the Greninja play here to hit both Genesects. Makes the most sense to me. And then look for the Mew knockout later on. Has the second Colress, so should be able to theoretically get up to 7 in the Lost Zone here. There's 5 right now, so yeah, we'll get to 7. But does also need to... Comfy. We'll get to 7. Oh, here's the heavy ball. Actually, this actually might make a big deal because this actually shuffles up the Psychic Energy here for Pedro. So it's possible Pedro sees like a Psychic Energy sooner now. I don't know if that changes too much, to be honest. It's full read of the prize cards, though. All of their Escape Rope surprised. All of the Psychic Energy. The Roxanne. I forget what the last card was, to be honest. Oh, a Capture Energy, which is like the most, the least relevant of cards, I think, of the cards. All right, Colors for 5. I said probably looking for the Greninja play here. You can go Greninja, hit both Genesects, and then Sableye will take the KO on one of them, but that'll have to be later because Pedro can't go Greninja into Sableye this turn because both of Pedro's Psychic Energy are prized. They actually can't do that line, so Pedro's play has to be Greninja, then Drapion for 4, then Sableye for 2, which I think is still a fine route for Pedro to look to take here. I think it's probably the best route for Pedro to take here. And yeah, here comes the Mirage Gate. Like I said, we'll probably see the Greninja getting loaded up here. Looks like that's going to be the move. Left the Metal Energy in the deck. I maybe would have liked to have seen the Lightning Energy get saved in the deck. I don't know if there's another Lightning in the deck or in the hand here for Pedro. Just have the option of the Raikou V at some point, potentially. I think that'd be, like, pretty reasonable to keep around the option of Raikou. Just, like, something to just, like, punch your opponent with in the Mew matchup sometimes just feels good. Because you don't want to let them sit there and Psychic Leap over and over and over again on just, like, your low HP Pokemon. Another reason it's important for Pedro to actually get the... attack off with the Greninja right now is because one of the strongest plays in this matchup for the Mew player is actually Lost City, Boss, or Double Cross Switch or KO Greninja, and then completely eliminates your option to actually attack with Greninja. So that's one of the Mew player's best plays is to Lost City or Greninja as soon as possible. You can play around this a little bit on Pedro's side by like netting your Greninja out of play, but if you net your Greninja out of play and then you get judged, then all of a sudden to pull off the Greninja play to begin with again, you have to find the Greninja, get the energy on it. So you want to just use Greninja as soon as possible in this matchup as a Lost Box player before they Lost City it and do some shenanigans like that. So Luminian versus Colress here goes for the Colress. Yeah, Illuminium is going to be tough to use under the paths that Nico will be putting down eventually. Another Comfy back into play. And that's also why the Cram is nice, to be honest, towards like the late game as well, potentially sometimes. Is just have something to punch your opponent's Mews with. And it has a little bit more HP. If you're just leaving Comfy in the active turn after turn after turn, you could be in trouble. There's the Hard Retreat from Pedro. The Greninja's coming up, and then we should see the hits on. And the reason you want to hit 2 Genesect, like you could theoretically take out the Meloetta here from Nico. But if you do that, if you take out the Meloetta, and then you KO. Well, in this situation, Pedro's not going to be KOing Genesect first. Pedro might go for the KO on the Meloetta to potentially pull a Psychic off the prize cards. But if you go like KO a Meloetta and then KO a Genesect, then you can get Roxanne a turn earlier. And in this matchup, you can avoid getting Roxanne entirely. Pedro's not going to be able to avoid that, though, because Pedro did prize double Psychic Energy. So Pedro has to like draw prize cards first to even get to the point where you can KO the Genesect. Another play Pedro could make, though, would be to go Cram plus Boss KO a Genesect for the first 2, but then you lose the Boss, so that means Nico has full control over of ever putting a VMAX in their active, which at that point is when you need something like a Raikou or a Zamazenta to kind of force the Mew VMAX back into the active and have it stick there in the active so you can set up the Drapion play. Going to be aggressive with the Ordinary Rod here. I like this. Could have theoretically saved it to try and recover the Greninja after it goes down next turn, but Nico probably wants to try and Lost Zone your Greninja. And also probably is going to judge you. And yeah, Pedro's going to actually even be super aggressive here and set up the Zamazenta. Like, you just want to do something. Like, when your opponent is going into, like... Yeah, you just want to make sure you're always kind of punching your opponent's Pokemon is the way you kind of want to think about it. With going after the Zamazenta like this, though, it's possible Pedro could go after the Greninja play of knocking out the Meloetta, because if you go, like, knock out Meloetta, knock out Greninja, or Genesect, if the Zamazenta's going to come up and punch this Mew, then... you don't really need to go the Drapion route, potentially. But I assume we'll probably see the hit on the double Genesect. Another reason you want to hit both Genesects in this situation... Oh, goes for the Meloetta KO, actually. So another reason you do want to potentially hit both Genesects, though, is because some Mew players play Collapse Stadium. So if you only hit one Genesect, it's possible that Nico could fill up their board and then get rid of the other Genesect. So I'm not sure I like this play from Pedro, because like I said, Pedro's route here could be Genesect double Greninja... or Greninja double Genesect. then go Drapion for 4 on the Mew VMAX next turn or as soon as possible. Get the Psychic off the prize cards and go Sableye the turn after. Because even if you go this route as Pedro and you take the prize card, if you pull the Psychic and then go Sableye next turn KO Genesect, you're still getting Roxanne. Like Pedro is still going to get Roxanne at that point. The goal of this matchup is like your goal wants to be draw 2 prize cards, then 4 to avoid Roxanne. But if you play it this way as Pedro, you're still going to get Roxanne. So even if Pedro pulls a Psychic Energy off the prize cards here, you KO the Genesect, but you're still getting Roxanne. But at that point, you have drawn 3, so you don't need Drapion plus Sky Seal Stone. You just need Drapion plus a way to remove Path to the Peak, most likely. So you will need 1 less card to pull off the Drapion play at the end of the game, I guess. And no Psychic grab there from Pedro. So Pedro is going to have to probably go the Drapion route here on this next turn. Or as soon as possible. Go with the Drapion play. Does have the option, like I said, Zamazenta could go Gust KO a Genesect. Zamazenta just punching Mew does set up some lines as well, as whereas like, is Nico going to be able to Psychic Leap that Mew VMAX at that point or not? Who knows? And Nico does grab another Meloetta here. So he's definitely making that a priority. Did not play a Judge last turn. Like I said, like we would have liked to have seen Nico play a Judge last turn for sure, I think. Tablet played. Attaches to Genesect. Once again, I don't like the setting up of the Genesect here from Nico. Probably should just attach to Meloetta. Probably should have honestly just grabbed another Mew V and put the double turbo on the Mew V, to be honest. That would have been the play, I think, for sure. Yeah, now you don't have a room for a second Mew V here. So now Pedro can take big advantage of this board state that Nico's creating here. And Pedro can just go... Now Pedro can just go aggressive with Drapion, knock out the Mew VMAX. It is possible the Meloetta could return KO it, I guess. But then you just go Sableye to clean up the game on the Genesect, which I guess like that was like the play always every time anyways. Yeah, you don't need this guy Seal Stone, so that's always going to be the play, I guess, as well. So it makes it like a little bit cleaner. Yeah, because I guess Pedro had to go for Drapion, almost always has to go for Drapion first no matter what. Not having to use this guy Seal Stone. Yeah, the only thing you're afraid of here would be the Collapse Stadium. Collapse Stadium could make things difficult for Pedro, possibly. If the Collapse Stadium comes down to remove that 90 off that Genesect at some point. If Nico plays the Collapse Stadium as well. We don't know if Nico plays the Collapse Stadium. Another Cram. Tails again. Still has quite a few Genesect uses to go, though. And I think has the Forest Seal Stone, though, so... Tablet. So Ken definitely take the knockout here with Melodious Echo. I think that might be what Nico's going for. Once again, Nico's not disrupting the hand of Pedro, which is basically this whole matchup. The whole matchup is swing with Mew, try and avoid Drapion getting too many prize cards, and then disrupt your opponent's hand over and over and over. So like what Nico wants to do here is judge as much as possible into Roxanne as much as possible, and then hope Pedro can't pull together the plays. Because Pedro, if Pedro draws well, Pedro pretty much always wins the prize trade. It's almost impossible to not win the prize trade. So this turn for Pedro can just go for the Drapion. There's not even a great response set up on the board for Nico anyways to answer the Drapion. So Pedro's play here can literally just be Drapion, knock out the active, and then you could even, if Pedro could create bench space, Pedro could bench Sableye this turn as well. I think that'd be probably fine, as long as you have the training court around for the following turn. Here comes the Colress. Let's see if the Drapion will be found. Can find it with a Quick Ball or a Capture Energy. There's a lot of ways for Pedro to find the Drapion here. Gets rid of a Quick Ball and a Capture Energy, so I assume that means Pedro has the Drapion in hand. I think you would just go for the Drapion play here as Pedro. I guess I could see Pedro going with something else, but I don't think that makes a ton of sense. Goes to use the Training Court. Okay, so it's not saving that. Loads up the Zam. Or I guess maybe you could just swing with Zam here, actually, because there's no Psychic Leap potential from Nico, actually. So actually, no, I like this better from Pedro. I like to swing with Zamazenta here, because there's no Psychic Leap potential from Pedro. Or from Nico. Oh, no, but no, Pedro's going to go with the Drapion. I almost like that. Well, no, this makes more sense every time, though, right? Yeah, because you're not going to get Roxanne if they're going to use Fusion Strike system on your... Oh, it's just, how does Pedro ever lose from here? I'm like trying to come up with a way that there's ever... I don't think it matters what Pedro does here, to be honest. Pedro could have hit with Zamazenta, could have hit with Drapion. It has Zamazenta set up and hits with Drapion. Like, yeah, draw 4 prize cards. Zamazenta KOs Meloetta. You're going to be able to have access to a Psychic Energy almost guaranteed right now. Pedro remembering to put the something I forgot to do at OCIC. Pedro remembering to put the damage on the Guru from the Drapion attack. Gotta remember that. The card's not truly broken, but it's pretty good. Yeah, so this makes a ton of... Yeah, Pedro has the whole play. Drapion swing. Gets one of the Psychics off the prize cards. Has the Zamazenta sent up. Wait. Yeah, you can't do that. Nico just benched the MUV, can't evolve to the MUV back. This is why Nico needed to bench the MUV last turn. Like, actually, in this scenario, let's say Pedro did the exact same play, but let's say Nico had a MUV on the bench, and then this turn Nico was able to go. Didn't bench the Meloetta as well. The Meloetta wouldn't be here. You know, bench a new MUV, Roxanne, collapse Stadium away this Genesect. Pedro does still win with Boss plus Zamazenta, but Nico would be in like an okay spot at that point. The Drapion would still be in the deck. That would be, I mean, yeah, because you can't collapse and Lost City. I don't know if Nico plays the collapse Stadium, but Nico wouldn't actually be in a terrible spot at this point, to be honest. If Nico had benched the MUV last turn, go to VMAX this turn, Roxanne, find Roxanne. I believe they still have their V-Star power available, so they should be able to find Roxanne. Find Roxanne, play the Roxanne, knock out the Drapion, and then also collapse Stadium away this Genesect on the bench. Yeah, Nico theoretically could be in a pretty good spot. But instead, it looks like Nico's not even attacking this turn. They attach the fusion energy to the Mew, which means they literally just can't attack this turn. So Nico's only play here... Actually, Nico needs to go Path, Roxanne Path. Nico's play here is Roxanne Path at this point. Nico needs to find Path and find Roxanne. And play them both. That's Nico's only shot at winning or having a chance here. Yeah, I don't see another situation where Nico can have a shot. Well, and Nico just passes. Okay, so Nico's hand must, but Nico hasn't used Forest Seal Stone yet, right? Okay, Pedro wins game 1. Yeah, definitely. The nerves are definitely getting to Nico. You can see it shaking on the stream. It's fine. Everyone has their first stream game jitters or whatever you want to call it. So yeah, Nico definitely nervous, making some mistakes. I think Pedro even said in chat that it is their first tournament. So I'm just gonna go ahead and try and find the game here. All right, here we go. Game 2. Nico hopefully choosing to go first. The prize cards are not great to potentially be able to use Meloetta. Meloetta prized, 2 fusion energy prized, but has a quick ball. We'll be able to get a Genesect. Do play Roxanne. I wonder what else they play in the list as well. I'm actually kind of curious. You know they play the Roxanne. I doubt they play Collapse Stadium. Usually these fusion builds don't have as much room for that kind of stuff. So I doubt that there's a Collapse Stadium in the list, to be honest. Or Seal Stone, and then has like 3 cards past that. Could have used 4 Seal Stone to grab a Battle VIP past there. I would have hated to see that. Really good start here from Pedro. Comfy, Colress. Just gonna open up with the Colress immediately here. Try and find some more options. Definitely probably wants to try and find a basic energy to combo with this Greninja, so that way you don't have to use the capture energy to potentially draw cards, because you want to save the capture energy to like find another Comfy. Okay, that's pretty good, I think. Cram and Gate looking like they're going to hit the Lost Zone. Cram is an attacker this turn, though. Yeah, Cram plus Escape Rope is really good here to get that damage on the Genesect, to be honest. So I like that keep there from Pedro. To keep the Cram. And now we'll probably see the Greninja use with one of these captures. That's fine. Has a backup capture now. Would have liked the basic energy, I'm sure, to work with. But, oh, wait, actually, hold up. No. Actually, maybe it's correct for Nico not to bench anymore. Well, no, you don't. You really actually want to bait out the, what's it called, aggressively, to be honest. I'll say maybe Nico didn't bench more Pokemon because got a basic energy this time for the second Greninja use. Yeah, maybe Nico didn't want to allow Drapion to be used, but you kind of want them to use Drapion early like this. So, oof, unfortunate. Oh, that's a really bad Comfy there from Pedro, because Pedro did prize 2 Colress. So that's there's no more Colress in the deck here for Pedro. I believe Pedro is playing a Bird Keeper this event, so we'll have that to work with, but not great. Quick ball in hand here from Pedro. Thinking about giving up the Raikou. You do have to be careful of Echoing Horn. And I don't think Pedro would be able to fill up the bench here, to be honest. Actually goes with the capture to the Comfy to go ahead and grab themselves another Comfy. This sequencing is a little bit weird for Pedro's hand, to be honest. Could have gone with the capture onto the Greninja. So I feel like Pedro's just going to hard retreat this Comfy to the other Comfy here. Doing some prize checking here is Pedro. I'm going to probably... It looks like she was counting supporters, so probably going to realize there's no Colress left. But I think like I said, I think Pedro does play the Bird Keeper. So... And if Pedro can find like an early prize card, like I said, Pedro probably has this cram punch into the Genesect, which is going to be great. The quick ball would have been, it would have been nice to see Pedro use the quick ball here to get more comfy uses used before getting judged potentially. Raihan and Psychic did prize the second Psychic. I don't know if Pedro checked the prize cards there. That could be a big deal. Cram comes down. So just loading up to 4 and then playing the escape rope. But if Pedro had gone, Pedro theoretically, so Pedro's like floating a net and a switch card in the hand here. So if Pedro had gone quick ball, had found a reasonable quick ball target, plays the quick ball, gets a comfy, then you could go net. Yeah, you could have set up quite a bit more on the board here as Pedro. You could have gone net comfy, send up comfy, escape rope into comfy, use that comfy, capture to comfy, retreat that comfy to cram, and also get one more Pokemon into play like the Guru. So, yeah, I think Pedro probably should have tried to find... I think Pedro should have tried to find a quick ball target. It was a little bit tough, though, to be honest. I have to go back and look at the hand. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. I kind of want to find it. Yeah, this was the hand. You definitely want to quick ball here. Now, the dilemma is, what do you quick ball? I think you maybe could have quick balled the switch card actually here as Pedro. You also kind of want to leave the energy in play on a comfy. So the best target is definitely the Raikou. The problem with quick balling away the Raikou, though... Actually, is there a problem with quick balling away the Raikou? You go quick ball away Raikou, capture energy... you get a comfy, capture energy for Guru. No, you would leave a bench space open. So then you could get Echoing Horned, which is why Pedro doesn't want to quick ball away the Raikou here, because then it could get Echoing Horned. And you also want to leave. You also want to leave the capture energy in play on the comfy actually, because then if you get judged, you have a pivot set up all ready to go, which could lead to seeing like plus one, even just seeing like +1 card off of getting judges could be a pretty big deal. We're seeing +2 cards if it's an extra comfy use. You don't get to keep one of the cards though. Could have risked it here as Pedro got rid of the Raikou. Could have quick balled away the water. As well, but I guess you kind of want to keep the water to be able to use Greninja next turn. So I guess I don't hate Pedro holding onto the water as well. Yeah, it's just weird because then if you get judged from here, you just have like that many more switch cards in your deck. You've thinned out your deck that much. That's like 1 less, 2 less comfies, 1 less comfy. I think you don't have the Pokemon set up on the bench. See, Pedro's thinking about getting rid of that. You want to keep the water for the Greninja play next turn. Settles for just going for the capture like we saw though. And it does mean you float a net, which you really don't want to do. You want to use your nets aggressively to just keep your deck thinned out. Also, you got 1 less Pokemon in play set up here as Pedro, which Guru seeing +1 card, you never know when that's going to make a difference. Especially when you have 2 Colors prized as Pedro, you never know when, that extra card is going to be a big difference maker to actually have a play on your turn. So if there is a judge here from Nico, I think it'll hit pretty hard, to be honest. Because the hand is pretty good still from Pedro, but it's only as good as you keeping it. So, like... not being able to use those extra cards this turn, get that much more in the loss zone to build towards that potential Greninja play on the next turn, could be rough. Speaking of rough, Nico's hand is also pretty rough. I think Nico probably should have used the 4 Seal Stone last turn to use the Battle VIP Pass to get some more stuff. There's a boss from Nico. I think we should have just seen Nico open up with 4 Seal Stone for Judge here, though. You usually have 4 Seal Stone for Judge here and just, like, get something cooking. Because now I think Nico's about to use 4 Seal Stone for a switch card here, which is not very good. And depending on how Pedro draws, Pedro might be able to actually just go Drapion KO. No, goes for a Quick Ball. Okay. Quick Ball off the 4 Seal Stone. I said 4 Seal Stone last turn. Actually, 4 Seal Stone last turn for a Ultra Ball or a Quick Ball maybe was the play actually instead. Goes for a Quick Ball here. Just going to grab another Genesect probably. And we'll start to see some cards getting drawn here. It's pretty likely that Nico probably finds a way to move a Genesect. But having already used Boss... Also, Boss is the comfy instead of the Greninja, which I'm not a big fan of from Nico as well. I think if you're going to boss something here as Nico, you probably want to boss... the Greninja here. Okay, Cramormatic. Tails, 1 more Genesect for 2. If it leads to anything. I'm not playing anything down immediately. It's an Ultra Ball. Okay, Genesect again, this time for 4. There's no Genesect prize, so we know it's going to be in there. But yeah, probably should have bossed Greninja here, I think. Greninja's like the main Pokemon. It's a big a threat as far as an attacker goes. And then it's also, big attacking threat. And then also big draw power for Pedro. So, yeah, I would have liked to have seen the boss on the Greninja, I think, over the Comfy. Also, Pedro plays 4 Comfy, only 1 Greninja. So there's also just a possibility that Pedro just, like, gets into another Comfy this turn. There's an escape rope. That's a tough one from Pedro. Do you give up the Cram or do you keep the double Comfy? I think is the question here for Pedro. I think I almost like, because of Pedro's hand, I think you give up the Cram here and go for the Greninja play this turn. Goes for the Comfy, though. So it's going to be a lot harder to get to 7 this turn. This does only open it up so like that Pedro could like punch the active Mew VMAX, which just doesn't seem like it does a whole ton. I think Pedro probably should have shipped the Cram there. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, hitting for some damage this turn would be nice, I guess, at the very least. But hitting a Mew VMAX with the Cram is usually like there's a possibility just like it does absolutely nothing. Nico just Psychic Leaps away later and never puts them into a spot to be in trouble. Nico did put themselves down to only 2 Mews and board, though, with this play, going for this last Genesect. And this actually makes Psychic Leap a lot harder as Nico. So now Pedro can, like, do plays where Pedro kind of just, like, punches through the Mew VMAXs, and then it almost becomes impossible. Not impossible, but it makes it hard for Nico to ever Psychic Leap, if not impossible. You can even sometimes end up in a board state. Also a pretty awkward attachment there from Nico. Probably should have been on the bench Mew. It has to be a Technoblast here from Nico to actually get the KO. Oh, did they play a tablet? I don't know if they ever played tablets. All right, Technoblast, knockout. Comfy will be sent up here from Pedro, but only has 1 Comfy in play, so it's going to be hard to chain Comfys this turn. Has the water in hand. I'm sure Pedro's probably best play here. Probably the play that Pedro wants to go for here is the Greninja play, but punching through the active isn't as bad anymore this turn. We could see, does Pedro ever want to, like, Drapion this turn? Pedro could go Drapion this turn, Greninja next turn. Yeah, Pedro could go Drapion this turn, Greninja next turn. Oof, Birdkeeper versus the Sableye. That's a tough one. You really want to lose access to Sableye for the rest of the game. Probably fine with it if you are going to Drapion this turn. I think we might see Pedro Drapion this turn, to be honest. Like, Pedro can go Drapion and then Greninja KO Genesect, set up Genesect, and then Sableye close out that last Genesect. That's what we might see here from Pedro. We'll see, though. Also just hit with Cram. Like, hitting with Cram here isn't that... Well, it's pretty bad if you don't have the Sableye follow-up anymore to chase prize cards. It's not great. Another Comfy down. See what Pedro goes for. I think, in my head, Drapion seems like the best play here. I don't know if Pedro has... No, Pedro has a switch card in hand. So 1, 2, 3. Gonna get some more cards for some more options first. Yo, appreciate the 18-month resub there, Voodoo Child. And the 17 months, Carrot Sticks. And the 24 months, Bishop. And the 41 months, Irish. Appreciate it. All right, we're up to 7 now. I don't think the Greninja play is possible, though. There might be a... Also, drawing prize cards is pretty good here for Pedro as well. Because there is no... Oh, there is 2 Colors prized. Finally gets the Guru with the Quick Ball here. We'll have the option of Primate Wisdom. I don't think the Sky Seal Stone is in the hand for Pedro. There's a Mirage Gate coming down. I do like using the Mirage Gate. Even if you attack with Drapion this turn, I still like using the Mirage Gate, getting Greninja loaded up, because it's really hard for Nico to ignore. It's really hard for Nico to ignore your Drapion if you go with Drapion here as Pedro. Even if there's energy on Greninja, I think you're always killing the Drapion, so... You can have the Greninja already set up, ready to go if you get Rock Sand or Judged or anything on the next turn. Still a Primate Wisdom to come in here for Pedro as well, though. So we'll see what the Primate Wisdom goes for. Or potentially what Pedro gets off here to potentially do a different play. I don't know if this would ever change what Pedro does, though, what they get off the Primate Wisdom. It's still going to be the Drapion play. We'll see. The Training Court comes out. So no, it's going to go for the Greninja play instead, though. So Greninja here. Knockout, Genesect, and probably set up 90 on another Genesect. Well, actually, could still attack with Drapion here. I don't hate the... Well, no, I don't like the Drapion attack as much anymore, I guess, right now. Because... I guess I don't like the Drapion play too much right now. Because you got rid of the Sableye as Pedro. So you probably need to go Drapion for 4 here in this game. I guess you still have Boss as Pedro, so you could go, like, Drapion the active, Greninja KO, Genesect, hit another Genesect, and then Boss Cram KO, or Boss Zam or something KO. I guess I don't hate that play still. But I think we're just going to see Pedro probably go for the Genesect and maybe bunch something else down. No, he's going to go for the Drapion. Okay. Has the Seal Stone. The one thing I don't like about this play, but I guess Pedro probably knows enough about Nico's list right now, is that I didn't like the Training Court from Pedro, because this does open up the possibility for Nico next turn to go, okay, Pat to the Peak, Boss KO Greninja. and your Sableye is gone as Pedro, but I guess you have the Cram that can KO the Genesect, because you did get the Sky Seal Stone. So getting the Sky Seal Stone actually changes my mind on that a little bit, I guess. Because then if you have boss in hand here as Pedro, if Nico bosses, then you just boss. I guess you don't know Nico's full list. So like Nico could have some crazy play like double cross switcher, the Greninja, Roxanne Path. Mew's pretty good at finding the cards that it needs. Then you Raihan Mirage Gate. Okay, if you have Raihan Mirage Gate, then I guess that works as well. You want to use one Mirage Gate so far. Yeah, I guess it would have to be like a cross switcher plus Roxanne. Or catcher plus Roxanne. Yeah, it'd have to be hand disruption plus Path plus Roxanne. And at that point, you'd want to keep the training court around. But does he only play one Sableye? Yeah, Pedro only plays one Sableye. I forget what Pedro took over the Sableye, actually, to be honest. Okay, there's that. And then I think it is just going to be a knockout for 4. Yeah, the only way to punish this would be, yeah, cross Rox, Path, cross up the Greninja, Roxanne plus Path. Then there could be some regret of putting that training court in play. Because that could be like a card that you could easily, that's like a one-of card. If you just find it, you do just, the Drapion's just back online. You need like so much less. But Burkeeper over Sableye. Oh, that's true. It's Burkeeper over Sableye, yeah. I don't think Nico plays cross switcher, so I don't think that's a fear for Pedro to have. And like you've already played one game against Nico, so you got some intel on what you think their list is, and maybe there's been enough. Maybe Pedro has seen enough here to kind of know. I guess Collapse Stadium is still kind of could be a fear as well, though. Collapse Stadium to the Genesect, which is again just kind of showing, these two games are kind of showing how good Collapse Stadium can be in this matchup, to be honest. Like both games can definitely change drastically if Collapse Stadium is in the deck. Pedro wouldn't just lose if Collapse Stadium got rid of that Genesect here. Pedro would go probably like Greninja, hit both Genesects, and then look for the boss KO with a Cram or Raikou to close it out on a Genesect. Also possibly could do like Escape Rope plus Raikou at this point, I think, still as well. Like that could be a game plan here from Pedro, because there's not 2 VMAXs in play to protect against that. But we see the Elsa Sparkle coming down from Nico, which means no Roxanne, which means I'm pretty sure this game is probably over. Nico did discard the Roxanne. That is right, yeah. Nico did discard the Roxanne earlier. They could play Palpad, I guess, though. They could play Palpad. That's the only thing I can think of. That's actually why it's so important, actually, I feel like now, for the Mew player to get off to an aggressive start in this matchup. Yeah, that's why it's so important for the Mew player to get off to an aggressive start in this matchup, because you need to see a lot of cards to make sure you have because like the Drapion can hit so hard so fast with the Sky Seal Stone. Like you can just be so far behind in the prize trade as the Mew player that if you don't hit you don't have the Roxanne Path turns, if you don't have the plays like that immediately to respond to the Drapion, then you're just gonna kind of lose. And yeah, Nico had a pretty slow start. We saw in game 1 definitely didn't quite have a super good understanding of the matchup, and like never played like a judge or anything even when they had like the judge in hand and stuff. So